Hi everybody. So I've been trying to start this video for a while now and just like I'm tripping over my words and but we could attribute it to maybe the full moon. However, I think there's something more going on. There's something in the air right now. And, like I said in the last video, I've been feeling a lot in September. We're coming into eclipse season. Not that that really means anything. But I just feel like there's something there's this irritation. Some people aren't, feeling their best. They're kind of getting triggered, like things aren't going their way. There's not even anger, but just an irritation. And what kind of solidified this for me was that I was doing dishes last night, and usually when I'm doing something mindful, I kind of get for some reason my third eye kind of opens up and I see beyond the veil, right? So I kind of was honed in, and Anton came into view, and he was pacing back and forth, and I'm like, that's weird, because since I've known Anton, I've known him to be a pretty happy-go-lucky guy, not really concerned with anything, not really having anything on his mind, just kind of happy, right? But he was it was more like a pacing and irritation. And then I saw Heath, but there was only one other time that I saw that I had kind of a hint of Anton being irritated. And it was more with, I had this conversation with him. We were at a beach. It's when I shared my astral travels, and we were at this seaside beach, kind of like South Carolina or something. And he started to get a little bit irritated there. So, and then Heath came in, and forgive me, I'm going to trip over my words, but I'm just going to put up a video. But Heath came in, and I'm like, what's going on? And he said that Anton was a little bit irritated because something was coming down that I was going to know about. And I was like, okay, that's weird. And then I'm like, and then sure enough, something happened that night. But it wasn't to me, it was just a general, same shit, different day. And it wasn't personal or anything. It was just something that I heard from the outside. And then I saw Paul this morning, because we usually, Paul and I usually meet every morning before we go our separate ways. And, he had this his lips went really thin, and he was really thinking about something. I was like, oh, that's something's going on. And then I was like, oh yeah. From last night, I was like, oh yeah, okay. And I was like, I'm not worried about it. Don't worry about it. And they're like, well, no, it seems to be a pattern that's repeating itself. And I'm like, okay. So, I don't even know. There's this term that's spiritual sidestepping. But I don't it's not even that. I'm finding trouble explaining the feeling that I was given, the information that I was given, because it's not really fitting with any definitions that I'm aware of, and it's really ego, really nitpicky kind of irritation. Almost like cycles aren't breaking. Cycles that are meant to be busting open, just breaking, aren't breaking. And with all the retrograde that we've had, it's just all these things are coming back. But they're coming back to be broken. They're coming back to end, but they're not exactly ending. It's just kind of the same shit, different day, Groundhog Day. Something that... an example that I was given was that people are choosing to stay in twin flame relationships even though they're abusive. People are wanting the spotlight for themselves, even though in the back of their mind they're getting the message, oh, this person probably would have really got something out of this if they were included, but because that people gravitate to this person, they weren't included because somebody wanted kind of like, Heath is saying, like, all the glory, kind of trying to keep spiritual experiences to themselves, so that kind of like a pedestal feeling. There's like this pedestal feeling, like these people want to like still be on this pedestal that they've put themselves on without sharing a potential of bringing in somebody who could really anchor a community vibe. So there's like this feeling of wanting to stay on a pedestal that you've put yourself on, continue to be the center of attention, continue to put up with certain behaviors that are abusive or codependent because they're comfortable. And okay, and Heath is saying, don't forget, because Heath is with me right now and he's making sure that I remember. People using spirituality as a means to make behaviors okay. So, like, I'm really in this dark night of the soul, you know, I know I've been bitchy, I know I've been an asshole, but it's only because I'm going through the dark night of the soul. And because I'm going through the dark night of the soul, you know, you should forgive me. It should be okay, you know, or, okay. And then people saying, you know, and I'm talking about like the new age community, the sexy new age, spiritual, blah, blah, blah. Using spirituality as a means to justify shitty behavior. So another one is like, I'm sorry I did that. My ego was out of control. Well, no, you were out of control. It has nothing to do with your ego. You made a choice to be an asshole or a bitch, so you're out of control, right? Or they're saying, you know, you're more spiritual than that. You shouldn't act like that. You should be more aware of your actions. Okay, so Heath is like, first of all, that has nothing to do with anything. You don't sling spiritual insults at somebody to make them feel guilty or feel bad for some sort of action that they did that you didn't like. And you also don't use spirituality to justify shitty behavior because of this, that, and the other thing. You don't use spirituality as a means to put yourself on a pedestal and make sure that you're the center of attention when you know other people could come in and help others in a more, not in a more, but in a way that could join and make it a huge, way better experience. So, okay, Heath saying that Anton was just concerned because he sees sort of like certain cycles, certain patterns, certain behaviors continuing, and he's like wondering why things aren't changing, wondering why they're still in the same place, wondering why. And he's saying it's happening a lot because people use spirituality as an excuse to justify, again, he's saying this is really important, an excuse to justify staying there. You know, okay, believing that growth is happening, but if he's saying if growth was happening, you'd be taking these cycles and walking out of that revolving door. He's saying he's finding words very difficult to share with everybody because it's more like this, it's just more of a collective feeling. He's like, people are so wanting to grow, you know, out and through. People are so wanting to expand. People are so wanting to be bigger, be more. He says in the process of that, to be bigger and to be more, you're going to, you know, wrap your energy field around more people, more experiences, more connections. So he's showing me the wheel, and the center of it and the spokes coming out. He's saying, but if the center didn't have the spokes to support the whole wheel, it would crumble, right? Okay, and he's saying people are finding themselves in positions where there is a chance that they will crumble. And so he's like, it's more about maintaining control over growth, over spirituality, over whatever's happening, over people. Like there's this whole, he's saying control freak kind of issue here. Reaching out to others only in certain circumstances, craving connection, but only to the point where you're comfortable with it and not so much the comfort of those around you. So there's a lot of trying to maintain some sort of control in this energy right now. Okay, and he's saying it's because we don't recognize the energies of right now. Okay, he says people get really worried or scared or uncomfortable in energies that are quite tangible to them, but they're not the norm. And it's 10:10 on my clock right now. 10:10 endings, right? Endings and new beginnings decreed by source, I guess you could say. The whole, and I've been talking about this like the years of, I don't even know, Heath, 2021, 2025, 2022, 2025, it's a whole new energy. So if people are going to try to maintain some sort of control in an old energy, in this new energy, it's not going to work. What's going to happen is that the spokes of the wheel are going to fall off and you're probably going to find yourself really, really alone. I mean, we're never alone. It's just that feeling, because he's like, people are resonating with this new energy, and those people who are resonating with the new energy aren't going to connect with the people that are still resonating with old energy. He's like, so how do you tell the difference between what's new energy and what's old energy? And he's saying you're going to feel like you're losing control. The whole irritating feeling is just, it's going to be simmering on the surface. And there's going to be a lot of triggering. So regardless of when you decide to watch this video, whenever, it could be next year, it could be 2 years, could be 3 years from now, I might not even be doing the videos at that point. However, this is the message for you. The sense of things not working, wishful thinking, nostalgia. He's saying, what happens with us, he's saying, is that we really want to see you move out of what no longer works. We really want to see you move away from, a life that is not fulfilling anymore. But because it's so uncomfortable to even think about new stuff, you just kind of revert back into your tortoise shell. He's like, there's a lot of tortoise energy, turtle energy right now, but not in the way that, you travel with your house and eat vegetarian and you're very protected. It's more of a recluse energy where this turtle, he says, he's showing me a turtle that was dumped in an aquarium from the pet store. It's a whole new thing. And so the turtle is just kind of sucking itself into its shell and it doesn't want to leave its shell. So it's kind of like that. And then if you stick your finger in there to try to feed it some good nourishing food, it's going to bite your finger, right? So, okay. Heath is like, there's a lot of captivity. He's showing me a zoo, lots of animals in captivity. But it's not a zoo where it's not a very nice zoo. It's more of a zoo that's chains. There's a lot of chains. These chains have been broken. The doors have been open, but the animals aren't. They're choosing not to leave this zoo because it's comfortable, they're being fed somewhat, it's all they've ever known, right? Okay, Heath is like, people are crying in the face of freedom. Instead of laughing in the face of freedom, they're crying in the face of freedom. He's like, people aren't going to know really people anymore. The people that you've known for a really long time, they're going to be the most triggering because you're not going to feel like you know them anymore. And it's either because they've grown or you've grown. But you keep the cycles going because you want to keep what you're used to, what's the norm. Okay, and Anton was getting irritated because this has been going on and on and on and on. And he says when Anton channels, he just kind of wants to move people out of the stagnant energy and to watch people choose to stay in these energies or use spirituality, as a tool for, Heath is saying, people being condescending towards each other. He's saying people trying to one-up each other. The spiritual competition. That's not right because I don't think that way or whatever. He's saying it's really becoming intensified. Okay. To the point, okay. Yeah, people are ducking into the shell. Sorry, I'm trying to listen to him, but he's offering me like a lot of feeling in this. So, okay, he says we as spirit tend to watch what's going on sometimes and tend to get irritated with it. We as spirit, he says, kind of get down on it, because those spirits who choose to come and work with people, and like they want more and more and more information, but they don't want to do the work, right? It gets disheartening, he's saying. And so that's what Anton was seeing when he was connecting, for some reason specifically with me, and it had nothing to do with me. It's just something that he specifically connected with. And then Heath was watching, and then Paul got the message, and it's just like some sort of like these cycles were happening again and again and again. Okay, Heath is like, some people that are watching this video seem to be loving the holding pattern that they're in. However, the holding pattern was only supposed to be temporary. It wasn't supposed to be forever. He says he understands that it's a really jumbled message. He just wanted, this is the last minute, try to get Kim on camera thing to kind of say, what's wrong with busting out of your comfort zones? Like what's wrong with opening yourself up to the potential of, another spiritual view, another energetic view, another way of looking at things, a perspective shift. Okay, he's saying taking ownership of your actions without using spirituality as a scapegoat for your actions. Okay, he says one way to take responsibility fully for your spirituality is to take responsibility for the actions that you have chosen to take on your spiritual journey. Heath is like, the scapegoating really has to stop. He's like, he says, okay. So he's showing me somebody who's taking a look at the people in their lives and judging them using, he's saying, the very little spiritual knowledge that they have awakened to. And he says he wonders why they're still stuck in the holding pattern. Well, the holding pattern was for you to realize that you're looking at somebody through your spiritual knowledge with the eyes of judgment. And you're wondering why. This is like the holding pattern that has to break. okay, he's showing me specifically there's a person who is so desperate for a new crowd to surround them, new spokes of their wheel, but they continue this holding pattern of how they usually act with people, and so they're still continuing to attract that old energy with those people. There's a few people like that. He's showing me a few people like that, where they crave like this new vibe with people, this new energy with people, but they don't change their behaviors with these people, and so they keep attracting the same, and they're wondering why. Well, I want my tribe, I want my new connection, I want my spiritual, people. And they're not, because they keep acting the same way, they keep attracting the same thing. Oh, okay. It's because they're putting themselves on a pedestal. He says some sort of guru mentality, he's saying. That's very interesting. He's like got his hands up. He's like, no, has nothing to do with you. And I'm like, yeah, no, it has nothing to do with me. Friggin' I can, whatever. Like, that shit doesn't matter to me. So, yeah. Okay. He's saying that because we're coming to eclipse season, and he's saying, Paul has talked about this before, it's like a sharpness. It's a sharpness that's going to cut through stuff. That really, if you're wanting to grow into the next few years, there's some behaviors that are going to have to change. He says, Kim's not perfect. Kim has never been perfect. Yeah, and that's true, but I'm willing to work it through, because there have been times in the last couple months where I could have said, you know what? Fuck it. I'm just done with this. I am done with this. However, I had to look at my own patterns, because there's always this saying in my head, it takes two to tango. So I'm always looking at my patterns and saying, okay, so yeah, they're doing that, but I'm doing this, and I keep doing this. And so how am I going to break this pattern? And my pattern is communication, is honest communication. And yeah, and Heath is like, and that's why we're so insistent on Kim getting in front of the camera and talking, because she needs to work, and this is a way to work through the communication skills. And so I think that I have worked on that. It's not perfect, but I have been working on that. And so I am being put in a new energy, obviously, with all the shit that I went through in September. I had to fall down, break apart, so I could come together and move on, right? And that's how the revolving door breaks. That's how the revolving door is no longer a revolving door. It's just an entry and exit. Okay, so there's also these very quiet people who are noticing behaviors and suck that in like the empath they are, and they're not willing to say anything, and so it's going to stay the same. Okay, he's saying the heart and the throat are really, really, because we saw this thing the other day, and I talked about it with the round table, and they're like, yeah, for sure. So the heart, is coming on deck more so, the high heart and the throat. So the quiet people, he's saying that the quiet people, the more quiet they are, the less they communicate, the less they talk, the more the heart is going to hold on to that pain that they're seeing, that something's just really bothering them. They don't feel validated. They feel like they're unheard. They actually feel like they're being abused. He's saying there's abuse. There's a lot of abuse coming up. There's a lot of codependency. There's a lot of there's a lot of abuse coming up, and people aren't calling other people out on their shitty behavior. Or people are using spirituality as a scapegoat for their shitty behavior. He's like, the more people preach about how awake they are, the more they are not. Because he says waking up is a subtleness. Sometimes it can feel like a pow. Sometimes it can feel really, really defined. But usually, the waking up is kind of like coming out of sleep gradually. You're kind of coming out of that deep slumber gradually. And it's not something, he's like, think about it. If you wake up really startled after a nightmare or something, you wake up and you're like, you turn to your partner, you turn to whoever's in the house, or you text your friend, and you're like, oh my God, I just like woke up from like a really horrible dream. Oh my God, I just slammed into my body after astral travel. Oh my God, you preach and preach and preach, right? And then you find reasons and you want to share it with the world and you have reasoning and blah, blah, blah. But if you wake up like really nice and subtle and then the body takes its time, there's nothing really to preach about. It's like you just turn to somebody and like, how'd you sleep last night? Oh, it was good. And it was just like it was just like a friendly conversation where instead of pow, right? That's the example he's giving me. Okay. He's saying that with the feelings, the energetic feelings right now, people are trying to make it more than what it really is. Or I don't know. He's saying like people are trying to dumb it down as well. Oh, okay. People are trying to dumb themselves down so other people will understand them, accept them. So they're kind of dumbing them. They're kind of hiding away, kind of like protecting themselves, kind of shielding themselves, putting on another layer of mask so people will accept them, so they're included. He's like, the people who don't feel included anymore is because they're showing the real stuff. And he's like, I respect that. He's saying, I totally and 110% respect the people who feel like they're coming out of their shells. They're being who they've always wanted to be. They get criticized, they get dumped on, but they're still doing it. They're still coming out of their shells. And he says he really, really appreciates that. He's like, the people who keep, dumbing it down and hiding away and stuff, just to fit in, they have a little bit more work to do. So he's also telling me right now that he sees, when people watch this video, he sees people being triggered by it, that they're calling me out on stuff. Okay, he says, take a good look at what triggers you right now, because that is exactly what your spirit is trying to get you to move out of, move from, heal. All those friggin' cliche spiritual words that we love to use, forgiveness, heal, blah, blah, blah. That if you're feeling triggered by anything that Heath and I are saying, that is exactly what you need to kind of work on for the new energy. The new energy is bringing up stuff that we still continue to have to work on, because we still have stuff to work on because we're not perfect. If we were perfect, we wouldn't be here right now. Do you know what I mean? Okay, he's saying, as part of the round table, he's saying, I will call out behaviors, especially because him and Anton hang out a lot. And he's like, especially when it causes one of my best friends to pace back and forth. He's saying, I am going to call out behaviors, even if it's just in a general message like Kim gives. He says, I have no problem calling out behaviors, because if behaviors aren't called out, they tend to snowball into bigger things. Okay, he's saying in the northern hemisphere, we're coming into winter, and he says that if he didn't say something, that he would have watched a lot of snowball effects. He's like, sometimes tough love is good. Sometimes tough love is needed. He says, if you need a wake-up call, if you need to be triggered, if you need some tough love, he says, give me a call and I'll help you with that. Because he's He says he just wants to see the best. He just wants to see the best of people. And the best of people is right there on the surface. But it's almost like there's like a huge blizzard and nobody wants to go, polar bear in the snow. 'Cause we have a hot tub. And the kids, when they were little, they used to like to dip in the hot tub and then go roll in the deep snow because they like the thrill of that. He says people are missing the thrill, or they're craving the thrill of that shock of the cold. So they're like staying, but they're watching everybody else doing it. They're watching everybody else get out of the hot tub and go roll around in the snow, right? And he's like, there's two different people. They're like, there's the person who's in the hot tub and like looking at him like, oh, I wish I could be that way. Or there's people in the hot tub that are watching these people and judging the crap out of the human polar bears. So you got two, right? And then there's people in the hot tub that, oh, don't watch them, watch me. Look, I can do like 2-3 shots in a row or whatever. They're trying to get the attention on themselves. This is kind of the energy that's, if you're watching this, that you're kind of around now. But for sure, we're coming into eclipse season. So he's saying, be aware, be mindful of what's going on around you, but also be very mindful of what you're putting out, how you're acting, kind of like, And he says that this isn't a channel about blaming anybody. He's saying he wants to make it perfectly clear. This isn't a channel about like laying blame or anything. This is just a channel about calling out. He's like, I'm the teacher in front of the classroom, and I have a student who is kind of not paying attention in class or being a prick in class. He's saying being a prick in class. And I'm going to call them out as the teacher so, they pay attention a little bit more, because what I'm trying to offer in my teaching is something that, is needed to graduate. He's saying, you need this course to graduate. So I'm going to call out like crappy behavior in my class so you can graduate, because I want to see you walk that stage. He's saying, I want to see you walk that stage. He says, as a spirit who is working on, the bridge between heaven and earth, he wants to see it succeed. And he says walking the stage in that graduation thing is actually just walking back and forth between heaven and earth with that bridge. He says sometimes our messages aren't what you're going to get with others. And he says that's the point. He says he never really got, like, he showed me an interview he did, and he was like pretty, quiet and laid back and stuff. But when he died, he saw the value of being a shit disturber. And I think I said this in a different video, that he works in a place he calls Regret. And Anthony and I traveled there one time, and he really explained the whole reason why people live in this place called Regret. They live in it when they're alive, and sometimes they go back to it when they've died. And he says the whole purpose of him working in regret is so that he can pull people out of regret to move on towards the bigger, the better, the stuff that they want. There's an energy right now, regardless if somebody is going to say retrograde. He says there's an energy right now where people are being pulled back into situations that they regret, that they could have, that they should have, the why didn't it happen? So he's coming in today to try to pick out behaviors that are happening in the collective to pull people out of that energy, especially right now. And so he says, he's Anton just pacing back and forth, because he wanted to actually come in and talk about this for a while now, but Anton pacing back and forth was sort of something that said, yeah, I think I need to. Because he's saying if people are stuck in a holding pattern, then spiritual channels are stuck in a holding pattern of trying to explain the same shit over and over and over again. And he's saying he doesn't want to explain the same shit over and over again. He wants to try to channel new stuff. Before he can channel new stuff, he's got to, call out behaviors that need to be, fixed. He says Kim gets really frustrated about being on repeat all the time. Simon gets frustrated that Kim has to be put on repeat all the time. And so he says to hopefully get that out, like get that repetition, that cycle done, he will step up into a channel and call out behaviors that he would like to see kind of stop and not continue with the cycles. Yeah, he says that he's showing me people going around these revolving doors, and he's wondering why they can't exit. He's showing me a movie. What's the movie? Chevy Chase is in it. It's there's a family on vacation, and they're going around and around and around the huge traffic circle, the roundabout in London, England. And he's like, they're there for the whole day because they can't seem to get out of this traffic circle. And he's saying that is exactly what's happening with the collective right now, is that Chevy Chase vacation movie, they're going round and round and round in the same circle. And they want to see the sights. They've never been to London, England before. They want to see the sights. They want to go and explore, but they can't because they're in this stupid repetitive thing that only they, if they have the courage to, go into the other lane and take the next exit, that would be like the courage that they would have, and that they would be able to go explore and stuff. So yeah, it's very interesting. And, I think I did the video yesterday, and okay, he's saying, yeah, he felt that I was able to channel again. And so he took the opportunity to sit down. But he says if Anton hadn't, he's saying ruined their get-together night. I guess they had a date to get together and they were supposed to have some fun, but there was a lot on Anton's mind. So he had to grab me and stuff. Okay, he's like, that's all I really had to say. I just wanted to quickly come in and talk to people and connect with people and call people out. Okay, he's saying, if you're craving to be the center of attention, regardless of what you have going on around you, if you're craving to be the center of attention, you have to start asking yourself why and is it worth it? Because the people who are craving to be the center of attention all the time are getting really, really burnt out and exhausted, because it's not them anymore. They're trying. The people who have been in the center of attention, they still, for some reason, they still want that. Okay, he's saying it's a self-esteem thing. But there are so many others who want to come and be in that center with you and to support you and to have deep and meaningful rabbit hole conversations and resonate and understand where you're coming from. But they just can't get at you because you're wanting the attention for yourself. Okay, and these are Okay, so he's saying that the patterns that are coming out right now, these days, are patterns that have been lifetime. It's the Dharma, the karma that is being asked to be broken at this time. If you're using... Oh, no. If you're using spirituality as a way to judge and torment people, past life stuff, I don't like to get into it. And he's laughing at me because I'm just like cringing because I don't want to... This is like, I'm not calling anybody out. It's just an example. So just don't come at me. He's like, you were probably like a really, abusive priest or minister or something in a different life, and you're still using those behaviors as somebody now. even nuns, like whatever, you're like some sort of guru in a past life that used this spiritual torment to keep people in a holding pattern, and if I don't know, like there's so many examples that are happening these days. He says the ones that he talked about were the biggest ones. So, oh my God, I can't believe I'm like so cringy right now. Like I can't even tell you guys. I'm like, and he's laughing at me. He's like, he's saying I don't normally get Kim to cringe so much, but when she does, he's like, maybe I should just stop. Damn it. But why was Paul so bothered? Oh, okay. Yeah. No, he feels the same way. Oh, okay. It's just like the table is like not so much the like Riker and stuff and Simon, but it's like more like the people who have lived on the earth and actually tried to do something good on the earth, or had their own issues, and so they see that now, and so they want to impart that now. It can get really frustrating for them to see like the holding patterns continue. And he said even when they lived, their hands were tied, and even in spirit, hands are tied. And so it can be really frustrating when you choose to work, when you still choose to continue to work with the collective, and your hands continue to be tied because there's nothing much you can do until people choose to break their personal holding patterns, and then they can start getting into like the juicy. He says, but we can't get into the juicy until people figure out that they need to clean out their juicer, is what he's saying. Okay, he's using the juice analogy and not the fireplace analogy, because Paul's fireplace analogy was for twin flame, and the juicer is like just for the general public. Okay, but he's saying like the people who are not letting go of their twin flames because they found a twin flame union and they think that they can fix, or they think that they can heal this other partner. Unfortunately, you've done your bit, and now it's just kind of time to let that go, regardless if you have the label of twin flame or not, because sometimes even the whole twin flame connection was solely because you needed to see a pattern. You broke that pattern, and now you can let that twin flame go. And even though you're in separation, you've still connected with that middle flame just because of the actions that you took, and you or they said no, boundaries, personal power, taking back, no longer putting up with shitty behavior that has happened for lifetime and lifetime. You still, even though you have to separate, you still have connected with more of that center flame, which is a good thing. He's like, you don't necessarily have to continue a relationship with a twin flame just because of the label of twin flame if they're being a bitch or they're being an asshole, he's saying. Even if it ends up separating and breaking apart and you've done the work within that relationship, you're still doing the work. That energy is still felt by source, and it's still gonna like just change the world. He's like, change the world in a way that everybody will be able to promote using boundaries. Everybody will be able to stand up for somebody, the little guy, stand up for themselves if they feel little, and say no more. Because it takes a lot of power to say no more. And a lot of confidence and a lot of bravery to say no more to abuse. That cannot happen anymore, right? So he says if you're waiting for some sort of sign to break it off with your twin flame because it is a very abusive relationship, he's saying this is your sign to do so, because you've learned, you've quit this cycle that's been happening for a long time, and you can move on in your highest and best way while they continue to stay in a holding pattern, or vice versa. They can continue on their highest and best path while you continue your holding pattern. And if the holding pattern breaks, and if you learn a lot of stuff and you say, oh, my behavior, apologies, counseling, whatever you need, and you get in touch with that twin flame again, and you've done your bit and they've done their bit, and you can come together, and that will stick, right? So it doesn't, just because you found a twin flame union doesn't mean that it has to stick forever. It just means that you were brave enough and courageous enough and strong enough to take back your power from that finally, after lifetimes and lifetimes, and continue on your highest and best path and let them sort out the rest, right? So he says, I could go on forever and ever, but I won't, he's saying, because you guys will probably get bored. So, okay, he's saying, thank you for listening. Thank you for getting triggered. Thank you for recognizing your behavior in this. And thank you for making changes, he's saying. But I'm going to leave it at that. And he says, we'll chat soon. And so I'm going to let you go now. Thank you for watching as always. And yeah, we'll chat soon. I love you. I love you. I love you. And I hope you're very well and good. And that's it from me. See you next time. Ciao.